Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Makakwadash. Double lines to the elders of GMS rule well. Peace, salutation like Akim in the four corners, percent truth, sincerity. Peace be unto you and Shalom. So that video right there was just to show you the progression of NATO countries that started, were the founding members of NATO, and where they're at, and what's to make of them in the 2022. Now, as you can see on the screen, you got the blue, which is the dark blue, which is the NATO, current NATO members. Then you got the light blue is the, what does that stand for? Partnership countries. Let me look it up again. I think it's partnerships, country partnerships. I don't know, something. Let me be specific. Hanker down on my research skills. Program for country partnerships. That's what it is. So these are countries that is excuse me. These are countries that are aspiring to be part of NATO. And the NATO is spoken about in Revelations chapter 13. And it reads as follow. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise out of the sea having 7 heads and 10 horns. Those 10 horns is NATO, which branched out to be more than 10 at this current moment. You have these horns. A horn represents is a power, something that you attack with it. You know, you animal that has horns, it attacks with those horns, and that's what NATO is. That's one of their primary functions. You know, you attack a NATO nation where, you know, Babylon is, you know, the one of the power seats of that three unclean spirits like frogs. You know, the Vatican, D.C., and London. The D.C. being the military might. That Babylon is going to back, you know, the NATO countries. So they're part of this beast. You know, they you know, you got, it says some were and Daniel partly iron, partly clay. Some are strong, some are weak. You got some weak NATO nations. You got some stronger NATO nations. You know, Turkey being one of the more stronger ones. As you can see, that was they're basically second as far as military might in the NATO. Now, you notice at the beginning of the video, Ukraine was not a part of it. But however, Ukraine is blue on the screen right now. They're a nation that's aspiring to be part of NATO, but initially they were part of USSR, the Bear. And this was just this year. This is from an article, which I'm not going to pull up on screen, but get a little information from it. Here it is. It's titled. It's from www.voan or voanews.com, and it says, Pentagon chief: no country has veto on Ukraine's NATO aspiration. So Ukraine has aspirations to be part of these 10 horns and receive power with this beast. And ironically, guess who has an issue with it? Russia. So you have conflict that's going on over there. You know, you have some basically Esau basically fighting with each other about, you know, who's going to basically occupy, you know, Ukraine. And all these are wars that's shaping up to be all of this is basically wars that are shaping the landscape of, you know, the atmosphere that's going on. So here it is, you know, Russia wants to hold on to that stronghold. Meanwhile, internally they're saying basically the puppet guy actor that's set up in Ukraine, he basically wants to join, you know, with NATO. So the scripture also talks about in Ezekiel 39, which I'll get. Ezekiel 39 and verse, matter of fact, it's 38. Ezekiel 38 and verse 4. It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. This is referring to Gog and Magog, which is the bear, which is Russia. You know, putting hooks into your jaw. You know, when a horse has hooks in his jaw, the rider controls where the horse goes. So the Most High is putting hooks into his jaws, you know, and turning thee back. So Russia used to be Russia and Ukraine used to be, you know, an alliance. So they're turning back. And Russia has those hooks in its jaws. Reading on, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Now, notice those countries that were just named right there: Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya. These are, if you look on the map, these countries are not NATO nations. Libya is experiencing conflicts, which I'm gonna do a video on probably tomorrow or later today. So they have their own conflict that's going on right there, and Persia or Iran is not a NATO nation. Reading again, it says Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomar and all his bands, the house of Togomar of the north quarters, and all his bands and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So a guard is somebody who protects, and that is what Russia is doing. Russia, you see a lot of these skirmishes like Syria and stuff that you see going on, and let's say Yemen and stuff like that. A lot of times Russia be supplying them, or they be sending their mercenary troops. A lot of this is basically the bear and the eagle engaging in proxy war, where they're actually fighting on neutral land and on other people's territory. So Russia has been, at war with America for some moment. You haven't seen the glittering spears and forces that have been, going forth yet, but nevertheless, there's, they're gonna come. Those swords and those arrows that get launched over to Babylon. You read the news. There's conflict that's going on in Ethiopia. There's conflict that's going on in Libya. And Iran is always, experiencing turmoils from U.S. sanctions. All right, this is over here. This is nope, just missed it. This is Hosea. Wait, nope, not Hosea. Okay. This is Joel, chapter 1 and verse start with 14. It says, "Sanctify ye a fast, call a solemn assembly, gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land into the house of Yahweh your God, and cry unto Yahweh, alas, for the day of Yahweh is at hand, and as a destruction from the Almighty shall it come. It is not meet to cut off before our eyes, yea, joy and gladness from the house of our God. The seed is rotten under their clods, and garners are laid desolate. The barns are broken down, for the corn is withered." So it talks about basically the destruction, the day of the Most High is when He comes back and destroys this place. When the corn is being withered, guess what? Nobody's eating it. Because when America is completely destroyed in fire, it's not going to be corn just withered away. It's going to be completely destroyed and burnt. So there's going to be a time where there's going to be a lot of killing, and guess what? There's not going to be people to, you know, talks about that in second Esdras 15 or 16, I believe, about, you know, fruit shall grow and no one will basically gather, you know, from it. You know, so there's going to be a lot of killing that goes on, and stuff like this, and these skirmishes are all just leading forth to World War III, the third woe that's spoken about. Verse 18, how do the beasts groan? The herd of cattle are perplexed because they have no pasture. Yea, the flocks of sheep are made desolate. O Yahweh, to thee will I cry, for the fire hath devoured in pastures of the wilderness, and the flame hath burned all the trees of the field. The beasts of the field cry also unto thee, for the rivers of waters are dried up, and the fire hath devoured the pastures of the wilderness. So eventually the end result is going to be everything's being burnt up. You know, and Joel chapter 2 goes and talks about more about these, you know, about the fire that destroyed. You know, this is Joel 2:2 and 3 says, a fire devoured before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness, yea, and nothing shall escape them. So, but before that happens, guess what? There's going to be, you know, calamity, you know, the time of Jacob's trouble, killing, mass murders, you know, pestilence going on, taking people out, you know, neighbors killing each other. You know, that's why we have to, in order to be saved from this fire, we got to be baptized and submerged in that water. That water is what protects us from that fire. And that water is this word, which is what's going to save us. You know, on that note, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, B'Shem Kakudash. Double honors to the elders of GMS who were well. Peace, salutations, and shalom.